The latest Marvel movie, Thor Love and Thunder, is finally out in cinemas. It's been about 5 years since the last solo Thor adventure, and a lot has changed since Ragnarok, with the Avengers coming to an end and the long-running series now moving towards this multiverse narrative. This film, like many summer blockbusters, cost a fortune to make at $250 million. The reviews so far have been a bit mixed and seem less enthusiastic compared to the feedback of Ragnarok from 2017. Empire magazine did give it a positive review, awarding it 4 out of 5, saying weirder than Ragnarok, but incredibly sincere in its outlook. Taika's Thor equal is a big, beautiful blast. Entertainment Weekly said the film had its cheerful melee of starry cameos, in-jokes and Cliff Notes mythology. Feels a lot like franchise fatigue. It also has frequent moments of gonzo charm, thanks largely to the technicolor lunacy of writer-director Taika Waititi. The Hollywood Reporter stated the film feels weightless, flippant, instantly forgettable, sparking neither love nor thunder. So where do we find Thor after the battle with Thanos? He is now travelling around space with the Guardians of the Galaxy, coming to the rescue of those who need it. He has got back into shape, but he is still feeling lost and wanting love in his life, and still dreams of seeing Jane Foster again, and decides to leave the Guardians to go out on his own with his friend Korg. There is talk of a new villain out in the galaxy destroying the gods. He has been labelled the God Butcher. Gorr, played by Christian Bale, is out seeking revenge, and New Asgard is his next target. Jane arrives in New Asgard in hopes of seeking medical treatment, as she has fallen very ill. Thor's destroyed hammer reforges and bonds itself to her. Thor arrives in New Asgard just as Gorr starts attacking the town with his new army of shadow creatures. He is surprised to find Foster holding his hammer. With the help of Valkyrie and Korg, they stop Gorr in his tracks, but he escapes, kidnapping several Asgardian children. I personally loved Thor Ragnarok. It had great visuals, an interesting story, the comedy really worked for me, it had a wonderful cast of characters, and it had a cracking soundtrack. So my expectations for the next film in the long-running series were quite high. I hoped this new sequel would match the quality of Ragnarok. Love and Thunder I found to be an entertaining film throughout, but didn't quite hit the mark for me. With Taika behind the scenes directing and writing again, surprisingly a lot of the humour this time fell flat in areas. There are of course a number of silly moments and gags that work especially well, these screaming goats for example, but there was far less laughs for me this time round. Thor has now started to act more awkward than before, to bring out a lot of the humour, and it appears he is becoming more of an idiot but a lovable one. Then he suddenly switches around to act like a traditional headstrong superhero. He often comes across as a bit childish throughout, which I don't think was how he acted in the comics, but this interpretation of him has made this series so successful. When it comes to sequels, it's always a challenge to match the success of the previous film. Marvel shaped things up for the Thor series by introducing more comedy and something a bit light-hearted, and it proved a winning formula. So they will try to repeat that success, but it can't always be done, and that is the problem with Love and Thunder. Visually there are moments where it's like, wow, that's impressive, in particular when they go off to face against Gorr the God Butcher, located in a part of the galaxy where the colour is zapped out and everything goes black and white. This brings out some really cool visuals, but other moments it feels more low-key, with its locations and vision for what you expect from a Marvel film that deals with a cosmic setting, where Thor can go anywhere in the galaxy, and so for the most part it looks quite bland. The action sequences throughout are by the numbers and pretty forgettable, which is not what you come to expect from a superhero film that is generally designed to provide big, elaborate sequences. The real focus of the movie is dealing with the themes of love and death, and those do work in its favour. It has a strong emotional core. I don't think there is anything in it that will upset you and move you to tears, but it wears its heart on its sleeve and addresses Thor and Jane's relationship, and with the villain Gorr, played wonderfully by Christian Bale, he as well has had a tragedy in his life that turns him down a dark path. With Jane Foster returning and turning up as a new Thor, I was a little confused when I saw the trailers for the first time. It makes perfect sense in the story and how this all takes place, but with them bringing the character back, I wasn't really excited about it because Jane was just a rubbish character in Thor 1 and 2. Nothing to do with Natalie Portman, she is a brilliant actor, but it was how she was written. She was just a forgettable throwaway person for Thor to fall in love with, to tick the box of what studios think an audience desire. And when they kept referring to her throughout the sequels and the Avengers films, I kept saying to myself, who cares? It was such a bland, generic relationship. So this new film tries to address that, and fleshes out their history before they broke up with flashbacks, etc. I applaud them for trying to make it work and have them go on this journey together so it feels more worthwhile in the end, but I felt it was a little too late. The film does have some great performances from the supporting players. Russell Crowe playing this randy version of Zeus is hilarious, but the standout performance for me was Christian Bale, who is funny but also menacing at the same time, which he did perfectly in American Psycho. Cate Blanchett did such a wonderful job in Ragnarok, it's a tough act to follow. Bale's character could be seen as another throwaway villain, but at least he makes that character memorable and makes him a strong threat to Thor. Michael Giacchino, who has scored some big movies recently with The Batman and Jurassic World Dominion. He scores yet another superhero film, and in all honesty, it's the weakest Thor score to date. Patrick Doyle's work on the first film is brilliant, great memorable themes he creates, and in typical Marvel fashion, they ditch all that music for the sequel. Ragnarok does make a callback to it at the end, but largely does something different, but it worked with its more electronic approach, with the whole movie having this fun 80s cartoon vibe. Come Love and Thunder, there is no themes that kick in that will stick in your head. They don't create anything memorable for Natalie Portman's portrayal of Thor. When you see those two characters together for the first time in their superhero outfits, for me I just thought of He-Man and She-Ra. And especially with the posters, it has that Masters of the Universe vibe, but they don't have fun with the music. The score's strengths lay in the emotional stuff, and that does work, but everything else is so forgettable and doesn't leave any lasting impressions. They throw in 80s rock songs as you might expect, but overall a disappointing score. I'm sure this movie will do well at the box office. The recent Doctor Strange movie did big numbers despite mixed reviews, so there is still a strong thirst for superhero movies. But if you are getting tired of them and want something different, go watch Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, an incredible movie with visuals that will blow your mind, and a performance by Austin Butler as Elvis that is Oscar worthy. Overall, it's perfectly fine, it's a good way to kill a couple of hours, but it was a bit forgettable, and is a bit weird in places. When you have a villain who is going around killing the gods, you'd expect something more epic, but this plays things down to a smaller story. Perhaps on the second or third viewing I may appreciate it more. I had a similar experience with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I enjoyed more on repeated viewing. Chris Hemsworth is still a lot of fun to watch as the mighty Thor, but fatigue is certainly starting to show with this new slate of Marvel movies. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and click the bell to be notified of my latest retrospectives and reviews. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain early access to my content and exclusive videos, then follow the link below.